Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. So, hello everyone and welcome. My name is Kelly Jessup, and I'm the Assistant Director for Digital Learning here at Yale School of Management, Executive Education. Hope you're doing well today, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us for this Introduction to Yale's CIMA Prep course, Investment Management Theory and Practice. This is our ninth year offering this program, and in that time, we've worked with thousands of candidates. We encourage you to engage during our webinar today. Please don't hesitate to ask questions. This time is for you. Our program instructor, Eric Rabbanian, is very knowledgeable, and this is a great opportunity to pick his brain. To ask questions, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And if you have any technical issues, please send those directly to me via chat, and we'll try to get those straightened out. So joining us today are two people deeply involved in this program. First, I'd like to introduce Kevin Allison. Kevin is the Director of Operations and Student Services for Dobbs Education, which is Yale's partner in this program. He's served in this role since since the program's inception, and has worked directly with thousands of CIMA candidates. Kevin is generally your point of contact regarding enrollment, course completion, and other miscellaneous administrative requests. So welcome, Kevin.
Thanks for
Next, I'd
having.
like to Oh, great. Next, I'd like to introduce our program instructor, Eric Rabbanian. Eric is a CIMA certificate and he holds the CFP and CPWA certifications. He's also a licensed attorney. He ran his own RIA practice for 26 years before merging that into his current firm, where he continues to help clients. As the program instructor for the Yale CIMA online program, Eric helps develop the curriculum and, most importantly for our candidates, works directly with them to help them better understand and apply investment theory concepts and strategy to pass the CIMA certification exam. Before joining this program, he served as the co-director and taught the investment and time value of money courses for the University of Texas Financial Planning Certificate Program and has presented at various education programs. He has a passion for teaching and is committed to helping our candidates succeed. Please welcome Eric Rabbanian.
Well, all right. Thank you, Kelly, and welcome everyone to this information session. My name is Eric Rabbanian. I am the Yale CIMA online program instructor. And today we want to talk about CIMA, the designation, who does it serve best, what does it take to earn it? And along the way, I encourage you to ask questions. My goal is just to provide you enough information, hopefully answer all your questions, so that you can make an informed decision for yourself. So let's dig right in. We'll start with me sharing a little bit about the Investments and Wealth Institute. Like many of you, I was in practice for years while then also going on to study and get an additional certification. And so because of that, we built this to be streamlined and flexible as possible. So it's feasible for those that are working in their careers, as well as for those that have more time. So IWI is the actual certifying body. They are the group that you go through for the certification and to maintain it. Their content in general available to members is very strong, whether we're talking about the programs that they certify, or the conferences that they hold, or some of the periodicals that they provide, which are really top notch. And they're actually readable. So, they're sort of a mix between something very practice oriented and something along the lines of that you see with academic studies, but readable. And Yale's role in this is to provide the education course that's required as part of the program to get the CIMA certification. That course is for non-academic credit. It's sort of like an executive education program through the Yale School of Management, and to also provide you the test preparation to pass the cert exam. There's a very strong pass rate that we have at Yale, and overall, IWI has a strong pass rate. You can see that on their website. Those pass rates or en masse are driven largely by our students, because about 2/3 of the people that go through the CIMA program go through Yale. And that's about as much as I can say about that because we're restricted. But I wish I could tell you more. But we're quite proud of the program and the success that our students have had going through it. So you probably have some idea of what CIMA is about. Um, it's stands for Certified Investment Management Analyst, and the concepts that you encounter in the CIMA program and that are tested are applicable for just about any profession in an investment related field, whether that's in insurance, you're an advisor, a financial planner, you work on behalf of an investment management company or a bank, really anyone who deals with recommending or selling services or products related to investments. CIMA provides a very solid foundation, if not in those specific theories that are applied. They provide the foundational theories upon which the investment products that we encounter in the real world are rely upon. CIMA is more for those facing clients or facing advisors, uh, and that then go on to hire CFAs who might manage or micromanage a portfolio. If you go to the IWI website, which I encourage you to do to learn more about the program and the designation in general, then you can see some of the statistics that we've shared here that IWI shares about, the impact that having a CIMA designation can have on average earnings or wallet share with clients. So let me also give a little context about the CIMA designation relative to some of the other key certifications that we see in an investment related field. So these are four of the most common. On the far left, you have CFP, Certified Financial Planner, probably the most well known. On the far right, on this chart, we've got the CFA. And so all four have the four E's in common. And they're serious programs, certifications that require education. So there's usually in-depth courses involved. There is an exam that you're required to pass at the end of each one of these programs in order to become certified. There's an independent body that then is involved in preparing that exam. In this case, that's IWI for the CIMA or CPWA. There's an experience requirement. You have to have so many years in the field or a related field before you can actually use the mark. And then there's an ethics requirement, some kind of code of professional responsibility, and usually ongoing CE as well. So the CFP is the most well-known, focuses on a wide range of topics: cash flow, taxes, investments, insurance, or risk mitigation, estate planning, retirement planning. CIMA then goes more in depth in investments and application and in theory. So it casts a wider net and goes deeper than what you will see in a CFP program. So it's something that's very applicable to advisors and also, I would say, wholesalers, those working with advisors. In fact, maybe about 30% of our student body actually work in a wholesale-oriented field. CPWA, Certified Private Wealth Advisor, is a program that's more focused on the issues and solutions or tools that are used in working with higher net worth clientele. We're talking around the 5 to 10 million on up range. And there's a large focus in tax-oriented solutions or philanthropy ones, executive compensation, or exit strategies for business owners. And then finally, the gold standard when we're talking about rigor and quantitative focus would be the CFA. It's, in fact, you can see that to get a CFA normally takes on average about 4 years. It involves 3 exams. Most students that go through those programs fail one exam along the way before they pass all 3. It's known for its content and its rigor. So CIMA, it's not quite as much content. It's not going to go as deep or be as quantitative as that. Um, Most of these also involve ongoing dues, continuing education requirements. One of the things that's nice is most of these bodies, including the CFP board and the IWI, will allow you to double dip. So if you're in a program or taking a CE course that satisfies the CFP board's ongoing education requirement, that will also usually satisfy IWIs and vice versa. Also, a quick note about work experience. You'll note that it's 3 years for CIMA. What that means is you have to have been working in the field for 3 years before you can use the mark, but you can start the certification process with IWI anytime, and then you can actually use the mark once you hit that 3-year requirement. So, oops, here we go. One of the things I would encourage you to do is really check out as much as you can about the designation to begin with, and then about the specific program to make sure it's the right one for you, whether you choose Yale or another program. Hopefully you do choose Yale. Of course, I'm a little biased, but it needs to be what's right for you. And that's part of why we're doing this process. So general process is you submit an application to pass the vetting process at IWI. That takes about a week. In that process, you'll select an education program. And then after that, Yale will reach out to you to get you set up in the process to go through our program. And we'll go into more detail on our program a little later. Then you go and you prepare and pass the exam. And finally, at the end of that, you'll receive notification that information that you pass the exam gets passed on to IWI, and they will complete another background check. Also takes about another week or so. So at a high level, I want to review the curriculum, and then we'll cover some questions. So the curriculum itself is broken into 5 different sections. The IWI calls them domains. And the first one is fundamentals, where you review some statistics, time value of money concepts, some general economic theories, the business cycle, and history of global capital markets. Then you move into investments, where we review the different forms of investments that are available to our clients. This is a little bit like a Series 7 in that a lot of it is about the traits and constraints associated with the different kinds of investments. It's not just stocks and bonds and mutual funds. We also get into options and futures, but that's really only at a cursory level. In fact, you probably only encounter about 2 to 3 questions on the CERT exam on those specific subjects. Then we get into the meat of it. Portfolio theory, modern portfolio theory, the capital asset pricing model, very foundational theories upon which other investment products are based. Even if they're not used at a simple level, they're important for advisors to know, and they give us the conceptual framework to explain why we recommend, what we recommend, what's appropriate, how that fits into a client or an advisor's toolbox. Others that we get into are the FAMA in French, 3-factor model, behavioral finance, the different forms of cognitive bias that you see in practice, how to manage those when you encounter them with clients can be very helpful. Then we get into risk and return, and this is the more meaty math-oriented or calculation-oriented concepts, different ways to measure risk and return and attribution. Now, over the last few years, there's been a trend, it seems, based on the feedback we get from students, that there's a little less calculation focus on the exam itself, but we still cover it all for several reasons. One of which is you may get less calculation specific questions, but we don't know which ones those are going to be. And so we want you to be prepared and understand these. Plus, you use a lot of these in practice itself. So it's, IWI and CIMA think these are important things for you to know about. More on that detailed list of what they expect their candidates to know about on the next slide. So we cover it all, and we try to lay the foundation for the concept. And that's the other element as to why we still have you go through doing some of these calculations is in the process of doing so, you get a better foundation as to how the different metrics related to risk and return uh, work for clients and how the different inputs impact the output. And so when you encounter a conceptual question, you have the framework to understand it. You don't even have to do the calculation. Sometimes if it's a calculation question, you can already narrow it down to a couple of choices. Um, and lastly, portfolio construction and consulting is where you kind of bring it all together, along with the infrastructure around the Code of Professional Responsibility for CIMA, the use of investment policy statements, and then constructing portfolios, choosing managers, all of that uh, gets covered. So if you're still not sure whether CIMA is right for you, then I would encourage you to review this detailed content outline about CIMA and the subject matter. It takes each one of these domains that we were talking about and then breaks down different topics. And this is available on the IWI website, or if you email the program director for our program, Jim Dobbs, at his email that you can see there, jim.dobbs@yale.edu. We'll send that to you. I would encourage you to spend 5-10 minutes reviewing this and let your intuition guide you. This will ask yourself whether knowledge and mastery of these concepts would help you with prospects and clients. If less than half of it seems like it doesn't apply, then maybe it's not the right fit for you. But if half or more of it does, then CIMA can be very helpful. And I'll stop right there and ask Kelly if we've got any early questions that have come up.
Yep, just one moment. Let's see.
Sure.
Okay, I can see that someone has their hand raised. We actually don't turn the audio on for this, so if you could just pop your question into the Q&A, that would be great. We'd be happy to answer it.
Okay.
Let's just get that. Would you say that earning the CIMA certification is harder or easier than the CIMA certification
I'm sorry, the CIMA versus which one?
versus CFP?
Um, I would say, like a good lawyer, I'm going to say it depends. And it depends on your strengths. Everyone that comes into the program has different strengths and weaknesses. CFP is challenging because it's such a wide breadth of content, because you're not just focusing on investments. You're focusing on all those other topics that we mentioned, from cash flow to estate planning to retirement planning. There's quite a cadre of rules that you have to memorize for some of those things. Versus CIMA is going to be just investments focus. It's more mathy, it's more quantitative, even if there's less calculations than there were before. So for some people, that can be a daunting challenge, that element of it. And so for them, maybe CFP is a little bit easier. But in terms of overall total content, I would say, and on average, CIMA is a little bit easier from that standpoint. And you can see that in the length of time that it takes most candidates to get through. take a year or two, uh, maybe longer on CFP. With CIMA, the average tends to be about 6 months. And it's really less if we start the clock when folks really kick into getting into the program. Because sometimes people will sign up and then, life gets busy and they don't really delve into the program or delve into the test prep when that opens up to them. So if we start it from when they actually do that, it's the the pro and the con of a self-study program like ours is you get to choose. Well, you get to choose. Uh, so if you go from the time they actually kick off, then it's even shorter.
Okay, thanks. Yep, so we do have a few more questions coming in.
Okay.
The outline looks to be as of 2023. Is that the most current version of the content outline on the IWI website?
Ooh, that is a good question. I think so, and the reason why is every couple of years, IWI refreshes the topics, and so those domains, what's in each domain, can alter a little bit. The actual order of the domains could alter. The last time they went through this approach was in 2023. The exam adjusted a little bit at that point, and it's an involved process that IWI goes through to do that. They take in a lot of feedback from CIMA certified professionals about what they think is important for a CIMA professional to know. And in this way, it keeps it fresh. So I would expect this to update again in another year or two, but I would expect that one to be the most recent one. Good question.
Thank you. This person says, I have the CFP already. I'm more interested in tax and estate advising. I was not privy to the CPWA prior to this call, but do you have the same kind of fact sheets like what are on screen that you're able to share rather than waiting for CPWA's info session next month?
I'm so I'm not sure if they're asking if there's a detailed content outline like this for
I
CPWA
I believe
or
that's what they're asking, yes. And if
okay.
that's, if they could email Jim for that.
Yeah, I think that is, but let me confirm that with Kevin, who manages operations for both our CIMA and CPWA programs, and check in with him real quick here. Kevin, do you know, is there a similar type of
I,
outline on the CPWA?
yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. I think if they go ahead and email Jim and just tell them that you're interested in the CPWA detailed content outline, they do have that and he will send that to you.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. And I would encourage you to look at both of those then and see which one seems most appropriate. If it's from a tax standpoint, that is definitely going to be covered in more detail in the CPWA. In fact, IWI says they don't test on tax related items in CIMA anymore, although our students tell us they're still encountering it a little bit. We do address it in our program because as long as we're hearing that it's being tested, we want you to be aware of that as well. So you're prepared. So,
Okay, we've just a few more questions and then we'll press on because I know we still need to get to the meat of the actual program materials. So,
yeah, you bet.
but yeah, let's just get through these couple questions. Any
Okay.
thoughts on how to decide whether to focus in on CIMA versus CPWA based on the type of financial service practice you run?
Yeah, I'm going to punt back to that outline to kind of have that guide your intuition or once you look through it. But if your focus is on high net worth clients that are at least 5 million or higher, then I think there's a lot of value to the CPWA. If that's less the case, then I think CIMA is very valuable if you're working with clients' portfolios or you're working with advisors who deal with people's portfolios. So I'd be guided by that, although I have to say in my own practice, both have been great.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. How many students on average per year go through CIMA at Yale and in total recorded by IWI? How many active CIMA certificates are in the industry?
Kevin, do you have a sense of how many we have going through the program right now and how many there are total?
can tell you that on average per year, there's
Hmm.
about 450 students that come through Yale's program. I
Hmm.
can't really comment on how many go through IWI or other programs, that type of thing. I don't have that data available. And I can tell you that I personally attended the IWI annual spring conference, I think it was 2 years ago, and they had some slides up there. And I remember that they had talked about that they were approaching somewhere between 8 and 9,000 CIMAs in the country at that point in time. Like I said, I think that was
Hmm.
it wasn't last year. I think it was 2 years ago when I saw that statistic, but I'm sure that you might be able to find that on IWI's site as well.
Yeah, maybe as we're going through this program, we could look that up too and see if we've got anything more specific.
Okay, and last question for now. How often is the Yale material updated to be more in sync with the CIMA exam and IWI requirements?
Yeah, so sort of two answers to that. We also update whenever they go through their task force process and formally update the curriculum and exam, then we're adjusting, even if that's just moving some of the same content into a different order, again, reflective of if they're doing that as well. So that's a heavier lift. And then there's also an ongoing lift. We're constantly refreshing our program based on the feedback that we get from students about what they encountered in the exam. We survey our students after that to get a loose sense of that. And when we start to get an idea, because they can't tell us the specific questions they encountered. We're all on an honor system to not do that. But generally, hey, I was asked about value at risk, um, and so or a discrete probability question related about a potential return. And sometimes we use that because we think something is on its way out, but we hear, oh, nope, they're still asking that question, or something fresh comes up and we put it in our curriculum as well. So that's an ongoing process. Uh, One of the other things that we have is a discussion boards for each one of the domains, and actually each one of the subsections of each of the domains that our students can look into. And one of our discussion boards is about the CERT exam itself, where students sometimes give very detailed feedback about the experience, what it was like, what kinds of things they were asked about. And that can be really useful going into preparation for the exam. So you have that as well.
Okay, we are ready to move on. Thank you. Thanks for the questions, everyone. Keep them coming.
Yeah, definitely. Please keep them coming. Okay, so I wanted to share with you what is called the CIMA formula sheet. And these are the formulas, not all of them, but most of them, the vast majority of them, that are used throughout the program. And it's 2 pages. I'm going to flip to the second page and then come back. And it looks daunting. And it looks Greek. And in some cases, it actually is Greek. Don't let this uh, intimidate you. Uh, you might get 5 or 10 hardcore math related questions, as I was mentioning before. And more importantly, you get this sheet on the exam. In fact, I would suggest that this is actually the closest thing to a cheat sheet. Because what we're going to do in the program is we're going to walk you through these formulas. Each time one is applicable in a particular section. And we'll give you practice problems around it and explain the concept. And again, the concept is critical because sometimes it's not a calculation question. It's just a general concept and you might not need to calculate it. And one of the things that can come up is you might look at a formula like Sharpe ratio right here, the return of the portfolio minus the risk-free rate divided by the standard deviation. So extra return per unit risk. It looks really simple, but sometimes it might not be totally clear how you calculate it depending on the information they give you. Well, if you print this out and you're using this as you go through the program, you'll begin to remember that nuance and associate it with the sheet itself. It's like a cognitive trick. And so then when you get into the exam, you've seen this before and you'll remember that nuance. So in this way, it can be a cheat sheet. But you get this available to you on the exam, so you don't have to memorize it. That's obviously a good thing. Okay. So one of the other things I want to do is focus a little bit on what we're about. If you're going to spend time and money pursuing a certification, then it's important, I think, for you to kind of know what is our mission? What are we trying to do? And so we really have a three-pronged mission here with the Yale CIMA online program. The first one is we want to meet the IWI education requirements to sit for the exam. So this is to satisfy the educational component to make you eligible to take the exam. Then we also want to give you tools and knowledge that you can use in practice. And lastly, we want to help you prepare for the exam to pass it. And so the idea is it's a one-stop shop for all of this. You not only get the foundational layer to say, okay, I've been exposed to some of these topics, this satisfies IWI's requirement, but you don't have to go anywhere else for test prep. And so we break the program itself down into two sections. And then the first part is recorded lectures from our professors going through these domains. And you just watch the video, you take a short quiz that illustrates that you were paying attention. Almost all the answers from the quiz are available from the video. And when you've finished those 11 videos and questions, you have passed the educational exam part. You'll get a certificate from Yale that says you've satisfied this and you are eligible to take the exam. Probably not ready to take it at that point. All we've done is lay a foundation. And we expect that first part to take about 40 hours. The second part is the test prep. And this is where we have videos and slides about what you can expect to encounter in the exam, specific slides. Well, Jim goes through videos where he says, there's a high probability you'll see this topic and a low probability of that topic. And then associated with each one of those videos, for each section in the domain, are slides that are review slides about those topics, followed by question practice sets. And unlike the quizzes in the first part of the exam, where we don't give you the answer with the explanation, we'll just tell you whether you got it right or wrong, because you're taking a test and proving that you've satisfied that educational component. With the practice sets that we provide in the second part for test prep, you get detailed solutions and explanations where you can find the answers or read more about it. And then we also provide mock exams to help you discover the areas that need more polishing. And then we've got reading material resources to go deeper if that's required. And the reason we do it this way in part is, students come in with, they run the gamut in terms of their strengths and weaknesses, how much insight they already have in investment theory. Maybe they've taken a couple of graduate courses versus, this is their first time that they've ever been exposed to something like the capital asset pricing model. And so, and they also have different learning styles. And so we try to serve all of that. And in this process, it's our expectation and our hope, and this one's the hardest one to measure, is we can see whether you pass the first exam, and then we learn and whether when you pass the certification exam itself. But to measure to what extent this is usable in practice, that's a little harder to be done. But we learn that from feedback from our students and our graduates, from the discussion sections, or what's one of the most fun things for me and Jim, when we see you at conferences and you tell us about it. So that's our threefold mission and what our focus is. And I hope you see that we take it seriously. and it's also fun along the way. So a little bit more about some of the nuts and bolts here. It's about $6,300, and so not super expensive, but more than some programs. You do get the connection to Yale and the Yale process. Um, and I think that's kind of cool. You know, in your CVs, you can indicate that you have completed the Certified Investment Management Analyst program at the Yale School of Management. And of course, it includes all the test prep. Uh, in fact, students tell us that the focus on the Yale materials for prep was the single most helpful part for them in passing the exam. Sometimes they encounter other resources, and so we get that comparison. Others just focus on uh, our Yale materials, but we consistently hear that it's it's the focus on our materials, and we really do strive to not only prepare you for the exam, but keep our finger on the pulse of the exam by surveying our students throughout. There's no official start date. It's ongoing registration. You can start at any time because it's an online self-paced course where you have access to all the materials for a year. So for most people, it takes about 4 to 5 months once they get started. So sometimes people sign up and it takes a while, or they sign up, they get through the first 11 quizzes with the educational component. That opens up the test prep, and then maybe life gets busy, stuff happens in career, and then it pauses. But once they really get started, it takes about 4 to 5 months. Some it takes longer, some shorter. I mean, we've had, I think the record is 14 days. And then you do have a safety net. Let's say it is going to take longer than a year. Well, the first thing you can do is you can download all our materials, all our content, and use them for yourself. So even if it's past a year, you don't have access to the site anymore. If you downloaded it before then, you can use that to prep for the exam. All we ask is that you only use it for your personal purposes. And if necessary, you can also buy an extra year if you prefer to not do the download processing and handle it that way. So we give you some options there as well, because we know sometimes things happen. So I mentioned it's self-paced. This was done purposely because you know, everyone's different coming in. You got different strengths and weaknesses. You can do it fast. You can do it slow. We want you to have that option. In fact, we do give you some sample track schedules, like, okay, how to try and get finished in 30 days versus 60 days versus 90 days. Although I really recommend that if you start with one of those, let the process actually end up informing you whether it's working, because you'll get feedback on the practice questions in each section that'll give you an idea of how well you're getting this. And that's part of an overall process that we call the active learning feedback method. You know, as you're reading, you know, in an active reading approach, you'd say, do I understand this? Do I got this? Well, you do the same thing when you're taking a question set. And if you're not absolutely sure, that highlights, or if you get it wrong, that highlights looking a little deeper as to why, investigate the solution, maybe go back to the test prep slides. And one other thing, it's all online, but a lot of this you can download the videos and listen anytime you want, at any speed you want. So a lot of flexibility built into the system there. So let me pause because we've covered a lot more material, and check in with Kelly here and see if we've had any other questions come up.
Yes. When does that 1 year clock actually start?
That starts after you get enrolled on the Yale site. And you are then eligible to log into Canvas, which is our online learning platform provider, and you can begin to watch those videos. And actually, I think it ends not exactly 1 year to the date, but at the end of that month. So if you started, in June 15th, then it would end. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, Kevin. It would end June 30th of the following year.
Right. So what we try to do is we end access for everyone that's in the same monthly cohort at the very end of that month. So Eric has it right. So let's say that you enrolled and you got your Canvas credentials today on January the 22nd. You would run all the way to January the 30th of 2027 or 31st. Sorry. So it is at the end of the month, 1 year in advance. And the clock does start once you receive your credentials from us, and that's typically we typically send those out on Fridays. So once you receive them on that Friday, that's when your clock will begin.
Great. Thanks.
Thanks. And this one might be a little tricky to answer, I think, due to some reporting restrictions that are placed on us by IWI. But what is the average pass rate of all those who take CIMA exams and those who attend Yale's education program?
So overall pass rate is published by IWI on their site. I think it's around 60 to 70%. That of course depends on the time period that you look at. And I mentioned that because a few years ago, the pass rates were a little bit lower than that. They were probably more around the 50%, give or take range. And so now they seem to have come up a bit more recently, and that's what it appears from our own students as well. We're not at liberty to actually disclose our specific pass rate. In fact, it's a little bit hard to know for sure because we have to learn from our students directly. And that's as much as I can say about that, other than, a lot of these pass rates are driven by our students because they make up most of the student body going through CIMA programs worldwide. And I'm really not trying to hide the ball. There's just a true limit here.
If I can add something here, I'm actually on IWI's site right now. And if you go to CIMA and if you go to their section of preparing for the CIMA exam and just scroll down about halfway, they have published what their most recent quarter's pass rate was, which was in third quarter of 2025, which was 76% for first-time test takers. And then they also post the past 2-year pass rate as well for first-time test takers, and it was 63%. So just go out on their site. You'll be able to find that information out there.
Great. Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, thank you. That's all for now.
Okay, great. So I mentioned about 40 hours for the initial test prep or the educational component that'll then qualifies you to sit for the exam and opens up the test prep materials available. Sometimes it can be a little bit quicker, but you do need to watch those videos and take the questions. Then we figure it's about 100 to 200 hours total to get through the whole program. And that includes those initial 40 hours. The total amount of time is really going to vary based on your background coming in. So we've seen a wide range of folks that have absolutely no background in this material at all to those that have extensive background. So one of the questions that often comes up is, and kind of touching on the question about, the Yale pass rate versus others, we know you have choices. The other main program is the University of Chicago. I'm obviously biased. I think the Yale program is great. I will say the one person type of person who might benefit from the Chicago program is if you're on a tighter time constraint, like you've got to do it at a certain time and you need that structure because those are set classes. or you need a live class, and then that's important. Now, in our case, we have professors that they do their videos, and you can watch these videos, and so you do get a live-ish interaction, and you have other help available to you that I'll get to in a bit. But if either of those two things are really important to you, then the Chicago program might be the one. That said, we're very happy with our pass rates. And I think it's safe to say that our approach to test prep is the most comprehensive. Um, and yeah, I'll keep moving on here. So I mentioned that we use Canvas for our online course platform, and part A is that education component with the video lessons you watch on demand and take the short test after each one. At the end of that, the end of the 11th quiz, you'll get a note that says you passed the course, you get certification from Yale. They let IWI know, and then you are eligible to sit for the exam. Then we have other resources, one of which that is available to you is this text that you see on the screen. It's called the Investment Advisor Body of Knowledge. That is not a course textbook. This was developed by Jim Dobbs as a graduate level text, and it's available as a resource. We make it available in the program. We have PDF versions of it. And we do that for students that sometimes need to take a deeper dive on a particular subject matter. But we also have other reading materials that help along the way. So this is sort of a last stop and a reference material that you can take with you and use as needed. So among the other resources, I mentioned we have the different time tracks that you might try, but only if needed. And so one thing I do want to point out that the certification exam, the CIMA program is not, or the exam is not like a series or a license exam where a lot of memory or regurgitation is pretty much all you need. You'll see a lot of the same kind of questions. Here, memory and recall will not get it done. You got to understand the concept and you got to be able to apply it. And so to get there, we have the videos that I mentioned before where Jim highlights what's likely, not likely to be tested, along with test prep slides that provide summaries of each of that info, which may or may not be enough of the detail that you need. And if you need more, each section has some reading materials that you can go into to further your knowledge. And a lot of times you don't have to actually pull up the material and read the whole thing. You can do keyword searches, do a control F, look up, Sharpe ratio or Fama French model, learn a little bit more about it. And then each one of those sections has practice exams that you take. And test tip here's a hack that I give all my students when you're going through those. Note any question you're not absolutely sure of. At the end of it, you're going to get your results and you'll see which ones you missed. And you want to review, obviously, the ones you missed and any of the ones you weren't sure about, and ask yourself, why wasn't I sure about it? Or why did I miss it? And if it's because sometimes it's calculation error, or maybe you misread the question, you misread that it has the word not in it. Those are the easy ones. Okay, I got to slow down a bit, not be as careless. Other times, though, it's something more involved, and the solution that we provide may be enough to clarify that. Otherwise, you could go to the reading materials, do the keyword search. And another thing that you have available to you is a discussion board in each section, which we've built up over time questions from students that Jim or I are in there all the time responding to. And you can see some of the questions that your predecessors have had, and that can be really insightful about a particular concept. So through this process, you're really it's designed to help prepare you for that cert exam. And in many cases, our students will tell us, hey, uh, the process was harder than the real deal. But we do that by design, and our pass rates, I'd say, reflect that. So a little bit about the CERT exam itself. So it's 120 questions. 110 of those are graded, and then 10 of them are not. Those are called beta questions, and they're beta questions for a reason, because the test makers are testing their questions. All certification exams do this kind of thing. Sometimes it's kind of easy to tell. If you see something you've never seen before, it's a really odd question. It's probably a beta question. But other times, it's not as easy to tell. You're given 4 hours. Whether that's enough time depends on how prepared you are. If you're well prepared, then I think it is enough time. It's, most students tell us they take about 3 hours, 3.5 hours. You do need a financial calculator. And so you'll want to get one of those when you enter the program. And when you take the exam itself, you get to use your calculator, the formula sheet, and a scratch sheet of paper. And so becoming intimate with your calculator is a really good idea. And IWI has a calculator policy. You can get this in the candidate handbook that's available on their site, or email Jim and we'll send it to you. The two most popular calculators that our students use are the HP 10B Plus, 10B2 Plus, and the TI BA2 Plus. I'm a fan of the HP 17B calculator because of its interface. And another thing that you might do in preparation is check out the site TVM, time value of money, tvmcalcs.com. It's a great resource to allow you to become intimate with your calculator and some of the time value of money related types of calculations. It's very calculation or calculator specific. So you can tell them which calculator you're working with and see the different problems and how you use the calculator to solve those. Okay, so where's your help? Well, a reminder, it is a self-study program. We're not priced or developed to be an academic program, but we still have some built-in help. So first of all, from an administrative level, like questions about, hey, I need access, I'm not able to log in, or hey, how much time do I have left in my year of access? Just reach out. Yale is there, Dobbs Education is there, answer those questions. Canvas, who provides the online platform that you'll be interfacing with, they are available 24/7. I will tell you that it is hardly ever a Canvas issue. The few times we encounter problems, it might be because there's some kind of security block at someone's work where they're just not able to get through, and they work that out. That's pretty rare. Okay, I mentioned the discussion board, how each section has questions and responses from students, questions from students, and then responses sometimes from other students or from Jim or me. And you can think of that as like an FAQ on that specific topic. And you can also do Control F in that environment and do searches for keywords to see the subtopic within that section and what kind of questions have been asked and answered about that. And then we also allow you to ask questions directly to Jim and me. Reach out with a question. Look, the general rule is it's up to you to study and prepare for the exam and learn how to solve it yourself, because that's what you'll have it to be doing on the exam and in practice, coming back to part of our mission statement. But we also understand that sometimes people get stuck. They need a little help. And sometimes just a little bit help get you over that hurdle and you move on. And so you are welcome to ask specific questions related to that. And we give everyone up to 12 of those and tell you use them, but I would use them judiciously. So and specifically, always save some for while you're in test prep. Sometimes people have some questions in the foundational portion of the course where we're just doing the education. But we get into the nitty gritty and the weeds in the test prep. And that's where they're best used. And then there's the CIMA Cert exam discussion board that I mentioned, where there's great feedback from students about their exam experiences. And each exam is different. There's a wide database of questions they pull from. So a little bit about our faculty. We have a fantastic group of professors. It starts at the top with Jim Dobbs, who developed the curriculum for this program and the CPWA program and others. Our lead professor is Toby Moskowitz. He does a lot of the heavy lifting. Students give him great feedback. In fact, if you want to get a sense of what he's about, we have a link to a fireside chat with Toby. So you kind of see what it's like to listen to videos and lessons from him. John Nersessian, who is a popular speaker at some of the IWI conferences, fantastic, very clear teacher, especially when he digs into some of the calculation concepts. And Roger Ibbotson, obviously a big name in financial circles, and a great professor as well. So I'll give you a chance to read some of the feedback that we get from students. We're proud of it, and we take it seriously. As educators, we're here for you, and it is this kind of feedback, both this qualitative and the quantitative feedback, that lets us know, how we're doing, and we strive to be high and receiving the high fours out of these 1 to 5 grades in these various areas, and we've been able to do that so far, and we have a net promoter score that we're proud of as well. So I hope that shows. And in terms of next steps, when you're ready to get started, if this is the right thing for you, you can apply through IWI's website or through Yale's. I mentioned it takes a couple of weeks, 1 week for Yale to do their background check and process everything, and then about a week for us at Yale to get you set up. And then lastly, here is our contact information for more information, both Kelly's and Jim Dobbs. And I'll see what other questions that we have.
Yeah, thanks. Could you just back up a couple slides to the calculators? We have a question about which ones were recommended. Well,
You bet.
technically not recommend or not endorsed, but what people tend to use.
Oops. I think I've gone past it here. Yeah. All right. And was there a specific question for it?
Yeah, I think this person just wanted to see which models they were there again. So if you look
okay.
toward the bottom of the slide, you should be able to see the ones that
Yeah, right above the highlighted TVM calcs is the HP and the TI. And then there is also the candidate handbook that IWI makes available on their site. If you have trouble finding it, just email us, because it can be a bit of a bear to find. But they have a very specific calculator policy where they list all the specific calculators that are available. And the one that's not on here that I mentioned, it's not quite as popular, but I think the interface makes it really user-friendly, is the HP 17B financial calculator.
is that we have a follow-up question is which one do you use? Like you personally, is that your
use
preference?
the
Okay.
Yeah, I use the 17B.
Great.
Another one that you do see, but I don't think it's quite as user-friendly and it uses different kind of notation, is the classic HP 54C. Although it has a wonky, if you have a time frame that is not an integer and you're doing some time value money calculations, you can get some wonky results. So uh, that's the one that my predecessors grew up on. And if you're really familiar with it, then it's great. But if not, and you're starting fresh, I would lean towards one of these two on that slide or the 17B that I mentioned.
Great. Thank you. It's important. Obviously, you want to have the right tools for the job, right? So,
Oh yeah, yeah, and you want to be intimate with how to use it when you go into the test, and that's what the training ground of the program is part of what it's about.
all right. Well, we are at time. So, thank you so much, Eric and Kevin. And thanks to everyone for joining us this afternoon and for submitting so many great questions. As Eric mentioned, we do have contact information available on that last slide. So, reach out to us anytime with any additional questions. We will be sharing this recording and the slide deck with you. It usually takes a couple days for us to get that out, but you will get a copy of all of that. So, no worries if you'd like to refer back to something. And just thanks again for joining us. Good luck to everyone who's in the path of the storm. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you down the road.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Sounds great. Take care, everyone.